My brother got married last weekend. I found out because the photos hit my screen before he ever said a word. No call, no invite, just his face under string lights beside a woman who barely knows my name. When I finally reached him, she grabbed the phone and said it clear enough for him to hide behind. "My wife doesn't want you there. She thinks you're pathetic." He didn't defend me. He didn't even breathe. I didn't cry or plead. I stepped back, took one long look at the life I'd built for him, and made a single decision that rewrote theirs completely. Before I go on, where are you listening from? And tell me, in my place, what would you have done? My name is Lily Marshall, and for most of my life, I believed loyalty could hold a family together. I learned that the hard way at 23, standing in a hospital hallway signing papers I wasn't ready to sign, while my 14-year-old brother, Evan, sobbed into my coat. Our mother, Julia, was gone before either of us understood how suddenly a life can disappear. In that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't just his older sister anymore. I became the person who figured things out, who paid the bills, who made sure he didn't get swallowed by grief. I kept that role for 15 years. While my friends chased careers and apartments in trendier parts of Kansas City, I took shifts wherever I could, office temp work during the day, event staffing at night, freelance marketing projects in between. Evan had school textbooks, college applications. He had robotics club fees and senior trips, and a dorm room that needed furnishing. I covered all of it, not because anyone asked me to, but because I couldn't watch him fall through the cracks our mother's death had opened. When Evan started college, I bought a small loft in the Crossroads district under my name. I told him it was for convenience, but really it was to give him stability, something I knew too well he couldn't build alone yet. I also put away money for the Europe trip he always talked about taking after graduation, little transfers tucked into a travel fund until it reached $35,000. He used to joke that when he was an engineer, he'd pay me back with interest. I laughed it off. Family doesn't keep score. At least that's what I thought. The strange thing is, people assume betrayal hits like a sudden blow. In my case, it came as a slow ache I couldn't name at first. Months before the wedding, Evan called less. Messages got shorter. He started saying things like, "I've got it handled," or "You don't have to worry about me anymore," in a tone that suggested my concern annoyed him. When he introduced me to his girlfriend, Sienna, I noticed the way she looked me up and down like she was cataloging me. A measuring glance, not a friendly one. She was an influencer, bright smile, curated outfits, always thinking about angles and lighting. Evan seemed dazzled by her confidence. I didn't mind. People evolve. Brothers fall in love. That's normal. But I could feel something shifting the way conversations got shorter or were postponed. The way Sienna's voice lingered too close to the phone whenever I called. Still, I never imagined I'd be erased. Not until that morning when I opened my screen and saw wedding photos, my brother in a suit I didn't know he bought, beside a woman wearing a dress I'd never seen, under lights. I'd never been invited to stand beneath, a ceremony that happened without a text, without a call, without even a lie to soften the blow. I stared at those pictures and felt something familiar and heavy settle in my chest, the same weight I had felt in that hospital hallway years ago. Only this time it wasn't grief that hit me. It was realization. The family I thought I'd held together had quietly cut me out. The moment I saw those wedding photos, my first instinct wasn't anger. It was denial. Quiet, desperate denial that made me think there had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a styled shoot. Maybe it was an engagement party mislabeled by someone online. Maybe Evan would text any second with some frantic explanation about last-minute plans and miscommunication. I kept telling myself that as I called him. Once, twice, 5 times. On the 6th call, the ring didn't even echo. It went straight to voicemail, his recorded voice cheerfully asking me to leave a message. A voice I had listened to edited and re-recorded with him back when he couldn't pronounce the word availability without laughing. By the 7th attempt, something icy began tightening around my ribs. Not panic recognition. Someone was avoiding me. I tried texting him. "Evan, call me." Then I saw the photos. "Just tell me what's going on." No answer. When my phone finally lit up with an incoming call, I exhaled too quickly. Relief, fear, all tangled. I swiped to answer, but it wasn't Evan's voice I heard. Well, a woman said I was wondering how long it would take you, Sienna. Her tone wasn't surprised. It was bored, as if she'd been expecting this moment, almost looking forward to it. I need to talk to my brother, I said. Put him on. A pause. A small laugh, low and sharp. He's busy. We just got back from the reception. It was perfect. Reception. The words sliced clean through my chest. I wasn't invited, I said, trying to keep my voice level. That's the point, she replied. My wife doesn't want you there. She thinks you're pathetic. For a moment, I didn't hear anything, not her breathing, not my own. Just a long, thin silence expanding inside my skull. Pathetic. I gripped the phone tighter. Did Evan say that? He doesn't need to, she said. He agrees. In the background, I heard his voice muffled, hesitant. Sienna, just give me the phone. No, she snapped louder now, making sure I heard. She needs to understand we're adults. We don't need her controlling everything anymore. Controlling. Of all the words she could have chosen, that one lit something hot behind my eyes. I paid for the loft you're currently standing in, I said, calm in a way that scared even me. I bought his furniture. I covered his tuition. The travel fund you're probably planning to spend, I built that for him. Tell me where the control is in giving someone their entire life. She scoffed. Exactly. You use money to keep him tied to you. It's embarrassing. But don't worry, we'll be paying for everything ourselves. We're not living under your shadow. Let me talk to him, I repeated. Finally, Evan's voice came through shaky. Lily, it's just, we didn't want drama. Drama, I echoed. From me, you make things heavy, he whispered. Sienna's right. I need space. We need space. And you hovering doesn't help. I closed my eyes. 15 years of sacrifices flickered behind my eyelids like slides from a projector. Late-night jobs, tuition bills, meals I skipped so he wouldn't have to. All of it dismissed in seconds. Sienna spoke again, triumphant. There, you heard him. Just accept it and move on. The call disconnected. I sat still, phone in hand, feeling the slow burn rise from my stomach, up to my throat. Shame, betrayal, grief, all mixing into something sharper. I could have stayed frozen. I could have cried. Instead, I stood, grabbed my keys, and drove to the loft I had bought, the one they were honeymooning from, emotionally, while cutting me out. When I got there, the hallway was quiet, echoing every footstep. I knocked. Sienna opened the door just enough for her face to be visible, smirking like she'd been waiting. Really? You actually came? I'm here to talk to my brother, I said. She leaned forward, phone angled toward me like a weapon. Whatever you have to say, you can say it right here. We're done with you barging into our lives. Behind her, Evan hovered, hands in his pockets, eyes stuck on the floor, the same posture he had the day our mother died. But this time, the silence wasn't grief. It was cowardice. And in that moment, something inside me finally snapped. I walked away from that loft without looking back, but the humiliation clung to me all the way to the elevator. The mirrored walls threw my own face at me, steady on the surface, wrecked underneath. My mascara hadn't smudged my hair, was still pinned exactly where I'd placed it that morning, and somehow that made everything worse. I looked like a woman in control. I didn't feel like one. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, the numbness had settled in. Not the kind that softens pain, this was the kind that freezes it in place, preserving it long enough for it to transform into something else, something sharper. Outside, the evening air was warm, carrying the faint hum of traffic and the echo of distant music from a rooftop bar. I stood beside my car for a long moment, breathing slowly, until my pulse steadied. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't falling apart, but something had collapsed inside me, a structure I had spent 15 years holding upright without anyone noticing. And once it fell, it left a clean, quiet space behind, a space I could finally think in. When I got home, the loft lights flicked on automatically. It was a habit I programmed everything to make the place feel less empty. It didn't help tonight. The rooms looked hollow, like the inside of a shell someone had abandoned. I set my keys down, slipped out of my heels, and walked straight to the small office I had built out of discipline, not passion. Files, spreadsheets, project outlines. My whole life organized in neat rows and color-coded tabs. I stared at the screen and a sentence formed in my mind with a clarity that almost frightened me. If they want independence, I'll give them exactly that. I opened a new spreadsheet, a blank grid waiting. Row by row, I began listing everything I had ever taken on for Evan. Loft purchase price, mortgage balance, monthly payment. Utilities, electric, water, internet. Association dues, insurance fees, streaming services, family rideshare plan. Credit card he used for emergencies that somehow became everyday use. The travel fund, $35,000 saved dollar by dollar. Airline reservation, 2 tickets for the Europe trip I once believed he deserved. I didn't write any commentary. No labels like sacrifice or gifts. Just the numbers cold and neutral. When the full picture came into view, a strange calm washed over me. I had built a safety net so wide and so strong that he'd mistaken it for the floor beneath his own feet. And now he resented me for it. The irony made me laugh, a small, humorless sound that barely filled the room. I picked up my phone and scrolled to the contact I rarely used, except for legal questions about contracts, Maya Lopez. Maya wasn't a close friend, but she respected facts the same way I did. She didn't care about family politics or emotional history. She cared about documentation and ownership. She answered with a groggy Lily. "Everything okay?" "No," I said. "But it will be. I need to know something." I read her the list, every asset, every account, every monthly payment. "Do I have the right to unwind all of this?" I asked. "Every dollar, every property, every booking, without giving him anything." There was a rustle of papers on her end, then her voice sharpened. "Lily, everything you just listed is under your name, sole ownership. Beneficiary status doesn't grant rights. Loans, bills, assets, you are legally free to sever every financial tie without his consent." The calm in my chest solidified. "Good," I said. "Is this about the wedding?" she asked softly. "I wasn't invited," I replied. "And apparently, I'm pathetic." Maya let out a low whistle. Then, "Let's make sure you're pathetic on paper too. I'll email you templates." When we hung up, the inbox started filling forms, steps, instructions. I printed everything and stacked them neatly. Then I sat back in my chair. Collapse wasn't the end of a structure, it was the clearing of space. And I finally knew what I was going to build in that space. Morning came without my permission. I hadn't slept. I'd only shifted between planning and a strange crystalline calm. The sun slipped through the blinds in thin lines, striping across the documents I'd organized on my desk. Forms, statements, instructions, a quiet arsenal. At 9:01 a.m., I made the first call. "Airline customer service. How may I assist you? My name is Lily Marshall," I said. "I need to cancel a reservation." I read the confirmation number off the printout. 2 premium tickets to Europe months from now, purchased with the naive hope that my brother would finally take the trip he'd dreamed about since he was 16. "Reason for cancellation?" the agent asked. "Plans changed," I replied. I didn't explain that the woman who called me pathetic planned on using those tickets for her honeymoon, that she had stood in the loft I bought, surrounded by appliances and furniture I selected, and told me with full confidence that they didn't need me anymore. The agent clicked through her system. "You're eligible for a 60% refund and a credit for the rest." "Should I proceed?" "Yes," I said. "Proceed." I hung up and watched the inbox refresh. A refund confirmation appeared. Honeymoon canceled. The first domino fell with no fanfare. No guilt. Just the soft thud of inevitability. Next was the education and travel fund. I opened the investment portal, 2-factor authenticated, and stared at the balance, $35,000. I remembered every deposit. $50 one month, $500 the next, a surprise tax refund in April. Money I had set aside so Evan could see Paris touch the stone walls of Florence, wander through a world he'd only seen on YouTube. I clicked, withdraw all. A warning popped up, penalties, taxes, early withdrawal fees. I confirmed anyway. My phone buzzed immediately, a text from the investment firm. Transfer initiated. Funds will post within 5 business days. The second domino dropped. I closed the browser and reached for the mortgage file. The loft was next. I dialed the number for Reed Thompson, the realtor who had helped me purchase it 4 years ago. Reed was quick, efficient, and ruthlessly honest, exactly what I needed. "Lily," he answered. "Long time." "What can I do for you? I need to sell the loft," I said. A pause. "You want to sell it?" "I thought you bought it for your brother." "I did," I replied. Circumstances changed. Reed didn't ask for details. He respected boundaries in a way my own family never had. Well, he said, already shifting into business mode, Crossroads is hot right now. Units like yours are getting offers within hours. If we list today, we can probably lock a buyer by the weekend. "List it," I said. "No staging, no waiting. You got it. I'll send the paperwork." The digital documents arrived within the hour. I opened them, skimmed the terms, and clicked sign. My signature appeared crisp and confident, a stark contrast to the exhausted woman behind the screen. By noon, the loft was officially on the market. I sat back feeling the faintest tremor of satisfaction. If Sienna wanted independence, she was about to experience the full definition. The first call from the building manager came that afternoon. "Hi, Ms. Marshall. I need to confirm, did you authorize the sale of Unit 5C? Yes." Another pause. "The current occupants that weren't aware." "That's not my responsibility," I said. "All documentation is under my name. Please proceed with whatever notices are required." The manager exhaled slowly as if he understood only half the story, but enough to stay out of it. "We'll handle it." I thanked him and ended the call. I imagined the scene unfolding in that loft, Sienna pacing Evan, confused papers in hand, realizing that the ground beneath them wasn't theirs, that it never had been. They had wanted freedom from me. They were getting it. That evening, Reed called. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "We already have 2 offers. 1 cash. Well above asking. Take the cash offer," I said. "You sure usually take it." He accepted on my behalf. The sales started closing within 24 hours. I didn't tell Evan. I didn't warn him. He hadn't warned me about the wedding. Fair was fair. The next series of tasks felt like brushing dust off a table, simple, quiet, necessary. I logged into the utility portal and transferred all accounts out of my name, effective immediately. Then the streaming accounts. Password changed. Profiles wiped clean. The phone plan. Removed his device from the family plan. Credit card. Canceled the authorized user. Every click was a boundary being drawn, a clean line replacing 15 years of blurred ones. When the last task was done, I stood in the kitchen staring at my hands. They didn't shake. I drafted a text. Not long, not emotional. Just the truth stripped clean. "You wanted independence. You have it now. Do not contact me again." I hit send and blocked his number before I could see the typing bubbles. 2 days later, the consequences found their way to my door. Not literally, but through the cracks of the life I had just severed. The building manager left a voicemail reporting that Sienna had shown up at the office furious, waving her phone, demanding explanations. That she claimed there must have been a mistake. That Evan tried calling me repeatedly. Their calls never reached me. Then Reed emailed to confirm the buyer's deposit had cleared. Closing would be in 10 days. Evan and Sienna would be legally required to vacate. I imagined the moment the notice hit their door, Sienna's indignant gasp, Evan's stunned silence, 2 people who had mistaken generosity for entitlement. But I felt no triumph, just clarity. You cannot cut someone out of your wedding and expect them to keep building your life for you. The following week, Reed sent a final update. Closing complete. The email read, "Funds have been transferred." I stared at the number, a sum that represented not just money, but closure. The loft was gone. The honeymoon was gone. The financial lifeline was gone. And for the first time since I'd seen those photos, I felt the tightness in my chest loosen. Not relief, not yet, but something quieter. Something like the first inhale after a long dive underwater. 2 weeks later, Reed called again. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "What now? Your brother came by the agency, wanted to know what happened, why you sold the place, why everything shut down." I waited for the punchline, and then the only thing he could say was, "She went too far." I let out a soft laugh. "Too far," I repeated. Reed hesitated. "You okay, Lily?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said. And for the first time, it was true. But the real climax didn't come from a call or a sale or a refund. It came from the silence. Days passed. Weeks. No messages. No attempts through friends. No apologies, just the echo of a relationship that had relied entirely on my effort. And finally, the understanding settled in. I hadn't cut him off. He had walked away first. All I did was close the door behind him. 4 months passed without a single word between us. My life didn't fall apart the way he must have imagined. It got quieter, sharper, steadier. I earned a promotion at work, moved into a smaller place that actually felt like mine, and booked a solo trip to Yellowstone just because I could. Silence, it turned out, could be a kind of freedom. Then one afternoon, an unknown number called my phone. I almost let it ring out, but something made me answer. Lily. Evan's voice was wrecked, thin, cracked. Nothing like the man who told me he needed space. He explained everything in broken pieces, how Sienna had burned through their savings, chasing brand deals that never came, how the honeymoon cancellation humiliated her publicly, how losing the loft left them scrambling for short-term rentals. And then the final blow, she'd left him for someone with more opportunity, taking half their debt with her. I have nowhere to go, he whispered. Can I stay with you? Just until I get back on my feet. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scold him. I simply breathed in, once, slow and full. No, I said. You wanted independence. Live it. Then I hung up and blocked the number. I didn't feel triumphant when I set the phone down, just steady the way a door feels when it finally clicks shut after hanging crooked for years. My world is smaller now, but it's clean. I wake up without that quiet dread of who might need saving next. I hike on weekends, cook for one, and fill my home with things I actually chose for myself. Cutting him off wasn't revenge, it was survival. If you've ever had to draw a hard boundary with family, you're not alone. Tell me where you're listening from and what you would have done in my place. And if this story stayed with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.